Well, we have a good panel this morning, and the whole Saturday morning is framed generally around the topic of online education. We're going to hear different perspectives of it, and we're going to approach it in a very broad manner, actually. So we will have very narrowly defined online education of the sort that I think Margaret will talk about. Hillsdale has done an excellent job with, and you'll hear more about that later, all the way to resources that can be accessed online, or multimedia resources that are outside the normal type of tool you might use in your classroom. So we're going to cover a broad range of items today. Our first panel, we have our two panelists to my left here, and the first one is going to be Kevin Hughes, and he's going to be talking about a multimedia tool that Acton had a little bit to do with, which I'm proud to say, the PovertyCure DVD curriculum. And I won't steal his thunder, but I do want to thank Hillsdale because last year, and ultimately I believe Durrell Foundation, made available to every faculty member here a full DVD set of PovertyCure. And I know many of you used it, so I'm very happy that it was helpful to you. So the first up will be Kevin with kind of a case study of how he implemented that and what the reaction has been. Kevin is the Associate Dean for Administration and Professor of Management at Mount Vernon Nazarene University. He received his PhD in Organization and Management from Capella University in 2003. And through his church, Kevin has traveled to dozens of countries, building facilities for orphanages and schools. He speaks widely on international education topics. This sounds like a bullseye for you, Kevin. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Hughes.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for this opportunity. This is amazing. It was just a year ago in San Diego. I was sitting in the back row on Saturday morning listening to Michael Matheson Miller talking about PovertyCure, and it's been a whirlwind of a year since then. So thanks for this opportunity. I'm humbled and I'm honored to get to share with you how we've implemented PovertyCure at MVNU in our MBA programs. Good teacher should poll an audience first. How many of you have watched the PovertyCure DVD series? Thank you. How many of you have been able to implement it in a course in some way? Great. So hopefully by the end of this next year, the same set of hands will be raised both times. Anyway, in my role as Associate Dean in the Jetter School of Business at Mount Vernon Nazarene University, I have general oversight for the curriculum in our graduate business programs. That includes an MBA, MSM, and an MBA Healthcare Administration. As a professor of management with a specialization in international business, I have the specific responsibility to manage the curriculum we use in all of our graduate-level global business courses. Outside of work, I also enjoy traveling and working overseas. I spend about 2 weeks each year in developing countries working alongside some amazing people who need some assistance in building schools, training centers, churches, and community centers. I first became aware of the PovertyCure DVD series when I received a copy from Hillsdale College, thanks to the Durrell Foundation, in preparation for the 2013 Free Market Forum in San Diego. Then I had the privilege of meeting Michael Matheson Miller, who was the only person sitting farther away from the podium last year than I was, right before that, and hearing his presentation at the Free Market Forum. The message of the PovertyCure organization and the DVD series resonated with me. I've worked in many of the countries depicted in the series, and I count it a rare privilege to come alongside these hardworking people all around the globe who are praying for a hand up and not a handout. I count it an incredible blessing to have a front row seat to see what can happen when people practice the God-ordained principles presented in this series to unleash the transformational benefits of true charity, justice, and human flourishing. I was convinced that my students needed to learn these principles too. So I incorporated the PovertyCure DVD series into our graduate-level global business curriculum. This course is a required class for all of our graduate students, and all instructors who teach the course are required to use the curriculum that I developed. So now all of our graduate business students are exposed to the PovertyCure DVD series before they graduate. The Global Business course is offered in both a face-to-face and an online format. In both formats, it's delivered across a 6-week period. And since there's 6 episodes in the DVD series, even I, who am not a math genius by any means, realized I could embed 1 episode each week in the course. I require students to watch each of those episodes each week and then react to it in a graded discussion forum. In the forum, they discuss the implications of what they see and hear in PovertyCure as it relates to our other course materials and as it relates to current international business and economic events. Since we require faith integration components to be embedded in each of our courses, I challenge students to view each PovertyCure episode through the lens of faith. They ponder how a responsible person of faith can best work towards a true and lasting cure for poverty. I appreciate how PovertyCure rationally and methodically makes the case for achieving human flourishing through a healthy integration of faith and free market capitalism. My students range in age from their mid-20s to their mid-50s, and I love watching the light bulbs come on for students of all ages as they watch each episode. We conduct end-of-course surveys in all of our courses, and I love reading the comments from students as they say what a life-changing and paradigm-altering experience PovertyCure has been for them. I think I've had at least one student in every section I've personally taught express a desire to purchase a copy of the DVD series to share with friends and family. Thanks to the assistance and support of people like Injelka Munkel and Mark Vandermas, we now have the PovertyCure DVD series embedded in our Moodle course template platform, so we can seamlessly use the series in all face-to-face and online sections of the course. So now even students in our face-to-face sections, where they watch the videos in class together, they still appreciate that the episodes are embedded in Moodle, our learning platform, if you're not familiar with Moodle, so they can go back and review the episodes outside of class to refresh and reinforce their memories as they do their course assignments. Here's a couple email comments about PovertyCure from my MBA students over this past year. First one, Dr. Hughes, I really enjoyed watching and learning about poverty in a different light. Before these video segments, I was always led to believe that the more we gave, the better it would help those in poverty. Well, after watching these videos, my eyes were open, and I know that more is not always better. I learned that the developing countries would like the chance to develop and not just be given handouts. Another student wrote, hello, Dr. Hughes. I wanted to drop you a note regarding the PovertyCure video series. I think this is a wonderful addition to the course, especially used in conjunction with the faith integration. It was enlightening to see this perspective on poverty and charity and come out with an understanding that while well-intended, we may not really be helping. In fact, we may be hurting. I enjoyed it so much I purchased it so my family and friends can watch it too. Thank you for making this part of the class. I hope it will help people make smarter decisions when it comes to working with people in developing countries. Here's a few comments from students on those end-of-course surveys where they're speaking completely anonymously. One quote, absolutely loved the PovertyCure video series, which provided a perspective that I had not thought about before. Another student wrote, the PovertyCure videos complemented what we were learning in both the textbooks. The textbooks alone would not have provided the depth to the coursework. Please keep the PovertyCure video series in the class material. It truly is a great takeaway. Another student wrote, PovertyCure video series each week was an excellent way to help me to begin to think globally and to think from a much different perspective. Each segment was thought-provoking and spiritually challenging. And one final quote, this is a brief one, quote, PovertyCure was fantastic, end quote. I can honestly say I believe the addition of the DVD series to our Global Business course template is the single best curricular move I've made in the 15 years that I've been managing curriculum at some level or the other. It's current, it's cogent, it is succinct, and it resonates with all of my graduate students. It's put a spark in my course no book or research assignment ever has before. I have personally worked on 13 overseas construction projects so far, and I can attest to the accuracy and validity of the PovertyCure message. Based on my observations in class and student feedback. The PovertyCure DVD series expresses this message of human flourishing so much more effectively than my personal trip videos, slideshows from my trips that I was showing in classes before that. I still work those into the class, but in other places. They have to see the pictures. I encourage all business faculty to visit povertycure.org. That's the website. To learn more about this international network of organizations and individuals, and to learn more about the DVD series. I would challenge professors and curriculum developers to watch the DVD series through the eyes of their students, and then consider if adding this to your curriculum might not be one of the best decisions you could ever make for helping prepare students to be global contributors to and champions for human flourishing. Thank you.
Wow, Kevin, thank you. You'd think we paid him to say all that. Okay, up next is one of your colleagues, Dr. Margaret Britt. She's a professor of human resource management at Mount Vernon, Nazarene. Before she entered the teaching profession, Dr. Britt spent 20 years in leadership at Digital Equipment Corporation. She's spoken at a wide range of conferences on the subject of online education, and her doctorate in human resource management is from Southeastern University in 2002. Dr. Britt.
Good morning. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm really humbled to be here today. I specifically want to thank Dave Durrell from the George Edward Durrell Foundation. I want to thank Anita Folsom, the director of the Free Market Forum, and her advisory board. And I'd also like to thank Dr. Mary Kelly from Texas A&M University in Central Texas. 2 years ago, we did a panel discussion in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, concerning higher education, and Mary really opened my eyes to the importance of certifications for this industry in the future. So thank you, Mary. And I also want to thank Dean Robert Roller, our dean at the Jenner School of Business from Mount Vernon Nazarene University, for his support of this conference. What I want to talk about today is online education. Where are we and where are we headed? There's a major higher education success story, Southern New Hampshire University, which is a secular private nonprofit school. It has nothing to do with the University of New Hampshire state system, and I will talk about them in a minute. We're going to look at some industry statistics, various types of online education. There's a raging debate today on the pros and cons of online education, challenges for students, challenges for professors, what some of the accreditation standards are, education and change. I want to talk about one MVNU online success story, Sam Nobellucci, who is a first-year medical student this year, and we will discuss him, and then the conclusion. So with that, let's talk about Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester, New Hampshire. You see a lot of their ads online. They are a secular, private, nonprofit educational institution. When Paul LeBlanc became the president in 2003, it was a very small school. Their enrollments at that point were under 2,000. Then the recession hit in 2008, and they were on the verge of bankruptcy. LeBlanc went and hired Dr. Clay Christensen from Harvard Business School. He is the author of The Innovator's Dilemma, which basically talks about the concept of disruptive technology, which means that companies at the bottom of the market use technologies to eliminate older competitors. And then he collaborated with Johnson and Kagerman in 2008 to write the book, Reinventing Your Business Model. And basically in that book, all three men talked about the fact that when there are disruptive technologies in the marketplace, people do not change their business model, and hence they are not as successful as they could be. So in 2009, Paul LeBlanc convinced the Board of Trustees at Southern New Hampshire University to basically increase online education, and he hired Dr. Clay Christensen from Harvard on the Board of Trustees. Kahn in 2014 wrote that Dr. LeBlanc's solution was to tackle what colleges were doing poorly, graduating students. Half of the students who enroll in post-secondary education accumulate debt, but they never get a degree. Kahn also wrote in the same article that public institutions will not see increasing state funding, and private colleges cannot see ever-rising tuition. And we know as business people that's a true statement. So from 2009 to 2013, in the space of 4 years, what they did at Southern New Hampshire University was have standardized online curriculum. They had 8-week undergraduate courses, they hired many admissions counselors, and they had a warning system if students did not interact online. So in the space of 4 years, their enrollments, their traditional enrollment went up to 2,750 students and 25,000 students. And what this did at the end of the 2013-2014 academic year was give them $29 million in profit, of which $22 million has gone to build a new library, $7 million has gone to hire 25 full-time professors. And the Parthenon Group in Boston calls Southern New Hampshire University one of the most significant players in the online space. Although let me just add in passing, Liberty University, because Southern New Hampshire University did this in 4 years, and right now, as of the beginning of this October, they're up to 34,000 online students. Liberty University has over 102,000 students, and they have over 90,000 online. Liberty is the largest Christian university in the world. They are in the top 10 in the United States for online education. They've been extremely successful in their model. But Southern New Hampshire University made significant leaps in only 4 years. So what about some industry statistics? Private colleges today, and many people in this room know this because many of us are in Christian higher ed, are facing declining enrollments. From 2010 through 2012, freshman enrollment declined at many of the private colleges at a rate of 10% or more. From 2006 through 2009, Belkin, in his Wall Street Journal analysis of higher education, said only 1 in 5 experienced that decline. And also, there's tremendous growth in the adult markets, and they are projected to increase by 23% by 2019. Some other industry statistics, and let me just also say this, if your school does online education, Allen and Seaman did a comprehensive 10-year report from 2002 to 2012. It's available online. You can download it. It's got some very interesting information about online education in this country. Some of the statistics, 32% or 6.7 million of all college students completed one online course in 2012. Chief academic officers who believe that online education is vital is now at 69%, and this is a high for the 10-year period. And then the massive online courses, commonly referred to as MOOCs, that many of us have heard in this room, 2.6% of all colleges use this, while 9.4% of all institutions plan to use them. However, it is your doctoral and research programs that plan to use them at a much higher rate of 21.4%. Let me also add that the Allen and Seaman report, they surveyed 83% of all higher education enrollments in 2012 with a 62% response rate. So this chart is a little busy, so let's just look at the top line. In 2002, I start out with data, And this is taken from David Letterman's article on the enrollment slowdown, which was in Inside Higher Education. In 2002, we had 16 million college students in the United States. That increased to 21 million, or as you see up there for 2012, 20,968, which is a 5 million increase, or 31%. The projection for 2022 is approximately 24 million students, which is a 3 million increase from 21 million in 2012 to 2022. However, that's only a 13.9% increase. So it's increasing college enrollments, but at a decreasing rate. This same article also said that bachelor's degrees from the period of 2012 to 2022 will only increase 17% in comparison to the 45% increase in the decade from 2002 to 2012. What types of online education do we have? There's web-based. This is a face-to-face source that uses a course management system. Many of you in this room use it. There's the hybrid system that uses both face-to-face and online delivery. Typical for hybrid is the first class and the last class people teach in a live classroom, and all the classes in between are done online. Online is a course that uses online delivery in either a Moodle or a Blackboard platform. Now, there's a raging debate, as many of us in this room know, about online education. There are those who are for it and those who are against it. So let's take a minute and look at the pros and the cons. The pros are 62.4%, he says, of all surveyed colleges offer online degree programs at the end of 2012. The Allen and Seaman report explained that in 2003, only 57.2% of all academic leaders were convinced that learning outcomes were the same or superior to face-to-face outcomes. That number in 2012 is now up to 77%. So that's a significant increase. When reviewing learning outcomes in online courses, those who believe that the outcomes are inferior, that has dropped from 32.4% in 2011 to 23% in 2012. And again, in online education, adults want efficiencies, they want the time flexibilities that online education offers. And online education for traditional students can actually enable them to finish their education in 3 years instead of 4, which means a big cost savings, and also big savings in time. The cons: online retention course rates, according to Zetnitsky, are on the average 10 to 20% lower than in face-to-face courses. And he said that in the fall of 2012, 30.2% of all officials said that their faculty accept the value and the legitimacy of online education. And that's up from 27.6% from the fall of 2005, but that's not really a big increase. 23% of all academic leaders feel that the learning outcomes in online education are still a bit inferior to face-to-face outcomes. But the biggest one is from the Allen and Seaman report, where they said between 2007 and 2012, the barrier for faculty accepting the legitimacy of online education actually increased from 61.1% to 66.8%. Challenges for students. Technology, as we know, is always an issue. Do they have the right types of software? Is it compatible? Discipline is a challenge. Many academic leaders feel that discipline is a huge barrier for students. That number has increased from 80% in 2007 to 88.8%. And I've taught online now at 3 different schools for several years, and I can honestly stand here and tell you discipline is always an issue. And at our university, because so many of us teach online, we call students, we email them, we do whatever is necessary to help them be successful. But if the student is not motivated and disciplined, that can be a big problem. Everything is written in an online environment, and for people who need a lot of verbal explanations and repetition, this can present some issues or challenges. Challenges for the professors. All chief academic officers agree that in order to deliver a very well-developed online course, that this takes much more time and effort. In 2006, 40.7% agreed that people needed more time and more effort to deliver an excellent online course. By 2012, this number was up to 44.6%. And in many colleges, what people basically do is replicate their face-to-face class in an online environment. And let me just be the first to, if you've never taught online, or a written curriculum for online, that is not going to work. You have to do a lot of different things. I see some smiles out there. So those of you who teach online know what I'm talking about. Technology is always a factor. Faculty need to always be up to date on the latest technology. And we need continuous improvement as faculty members. When we did our session in South Carolina, Mary and I told the group, faculty workloads can impact the delivery of an online course, because if you have a person who's teaching a lot of live classes and then you ask them to deliver many online courses, that can be an issue. Where are we headed in terms of accreditation standards? Today, most accreditation standards, and I'm only standing here and speaking from the Higher Learning Commission, which is the Midwest accreditation body, and at Mount Vernon Nazarene University, we have the Accreditation Council for Collegiate Business School Programs accreditation for every one of our business programs at every level. IACBE, many Christian schools are accredited by them. But for terms of accreditation standards, we have to review the attendance, meeting major course objectives, and required learning outcomes, not only as stated in the syllabi, but in terms of our assessments. For online degree programs, what we've done is we've standardized the syllabi, we've standardized the discussion boards, and the grading rubrics. And because we are a Christian university, every one of our courses has to have a faith integration component. We have to maintain very high curriculum standards for all of our online courses. And the biggest thing I would want to say to this audience is you have to make sure that every single online students know that they're going to be held accountable for the standards. And what I've done is in all of my courses, I send out a voluminous email and I bold it. I put every single class assignment every single week. I put what the attendance requirements are. Because unfortunately, in online, there's sometimes you have to fail people, and most of the ones I've had have been for attendance, but there's other times you have to fail people. So you want to make it crystal clear up front what the standards are and that they are going to be held accountable. Now, in the future, what's going to be changing? One of the big items on the table today happens to be certifications. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal, it'll be about a year and a half ago, where the University of Wisconsin, one of the Big Ten schools, announced for the first time that they are going to grant bachelor's degrees in their adult programs for people that can take a series of certification exams. And these are people that have some college credits, but not all, and they will not necessarily have to have the full component of courses to get the degree. That's a first in our region of the country, but in the other regions of the United States, this is being discussed in terms of granting degrees in the future. So just be aware, and it doesn't mean that people are going to have to take every single course. They might take a few online courses, sit for these exams, and if they can pass it, they will be given a bachelor's degree. Faculty need to always participate in the technology. We need to continually be updated in terms of our technology skills. The survival of some private colleges are going to be impacted by the changes in the industry, and since life is about continual change, people will need to have a positive attitude when dealing with transformational change. Higher education wants to know that, industry wants to know that higher education is adequately preparing their students to not only lead, but to come up with great entrepreneurial ideas. So let me tell you all about a real-life success story that we've had at Mount Vernon Nazarene University. Sam Nobellucci, I'll tell you about his background. When Sam was born, his biological mother was 15, his biological father was 16 in Pittsburgh, and the Nobellucci family from Johnstown, Ohio, adopted him. He was homeschooled until his sophomore year of high school, when he attended Johnstown High School because he wanted to play sports. When he was a junior, the family went through a crisis, and Sam told me he wanted to get a job where he could make a lot of money. I love science. I saw that if I joined an ambulance company in Columbus, Ohio, I could make money and help my parents out with this crisis. So he went to Central Ohio Technical College nights while he was a high school student and became a registered emergency medical technician and an ambulance driver. When he first came to Mount Vernon Nazarene University, he was a traditional undergraduate student, and he received a Bachelor of Science degree in sports management. In 2011, he received a Master of Science in Healthcare Administration degree. I had him for 2 online courses, as did many people in this room. And he told me when I met him at that time, frankly, I have to tell everybody in this room I was shocked. Normally you don't meet online students, and he said, Dr. Britt, I really want to come in. Your grading techniques intrigue me. So he came in. I was expecting a man in his 40s from his postings. You can imagine my shock when he was a kid. He was 25 years old. So we talked for 2 hours the first time I met him, and it was just unbelievable. He told me at that time one of his dreams was to go to medical school, but he said, I'm too old. I said, you're never too old. If God wants this, it is going to be. So after he got his Master of Science in Healthcare Management from Mount Vernon Nazarene University, he had the opportunity to become, and he became, the manager of the Ohio Health Urgent Care Clinic in New Albany, and some of you in this know that is Lex Wexler's planned community. Not only one of the richest men in the state of Ohio, but in the United States. He was the CEO of the Gap, the Limited, Abercrombie, and Fitch. And they told Sam they were considering him because he had a master's degree in healthcare, but they were just so intrigued, how could he be that young and done and had completed in his life what he's done? So he got that job for 1.5 years, but we kept talking. He kept in touch with me, and he said, Margaret, I really want to go to medical school. So we prayed, and I said, well, he took his MCAT exams. He didn't do as well as he wanted the first time. I said, go take a prep course. He did. We have outstanding science faculty at Mount Vernon Nazarene University, and I'm not just standing here and saying it because I work there. They have had better than a 90% acceptance rate in medical school, which is, for any school, phenomenal. So they're outstanding faculty. And I said to him, you're going to have to go back and do the makeup courses. You want to come back here. So he quit his job, and he did it. He retook the MCAT. He got much better scores, and he was accepted into every medical program he applied for. But the one he went for was the inaugural class of the Ohio University Ohio Osteopathic Medical Program in Dublin, Ohio. And at the end of September, he was told by the Ohio University administration he was appointed to the committee sponsored by the American College of Graduate Medical Education that is looking at successful combined medical doctor and doctor of osteopathic medicine. It's an MD-DO program, and that's the 2 degrees he will get when he graduates from Ohio Health, Ohio University osteopathic program. But this committee is looking at that education across the nation. And they said the reason they wanted him was because his background was so unusual. And he is a first-year medical student. And we still talk by email, or he called me a few weeks ago and said it's everything he wanted. So in conclusion, higher education, we are going through some major transformations in terms of the technology, survival, and the delivery modes for various types of education. We need to understand, I would encourage everybody today, if your school is not doing online or you haven't learned, you need to learn it in order to keep going in our industry. And here are all the references, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret, for that very helpful overview. We do have 10 minutes for questions, so I will open the floor. And I don't know that do we have microphones this morning? Excellent. Okay, so these ladies will help you. First one over here.
Thank you. My question is to Dr. Britt regarding
Margaret.
Margaret, regarding Southern New Hampshire and Liberty. You showed us statistics on their success in gaining market share. Do you have any other information, or have you seen any other reports on other measures of success, such as profitability or creation of value?
Well, obviously, oh, sorry, that's loud. Obviously, you need to graduate students, because one of the things that the United States Department of Education is looking at now, and especially for private schools, and also for Christian schools, would be how many students graduate, how successful are they. At the University of Southern New Hampshire, they're actually assigned an admissions counselor when people sign up for online education. And these people are tracked. And they have a computerized system where if people are not online for a long period of time, they get a call from a counselor, okay? Now, some people can say there's pros and cons of that. That's good support, that's marketing. One of their goals is to have people be successful, because Paul LeBlanc, who is the president of the University of Southern New Hampshire, is an immigrant to this country. And his parents worked in factories. And it was their dream for their son to go to college. And he said when he became a college president, it was a burning desire for him personally to make sure people were successful. So if they were going to do this big online thing and do it quickly and save the college, he said, we either do it the right way or I won't do it at all. And that's why he wanted Dr. Clay Christensen from Harvard to come, because he had read his book on disruptive technologies and felt, you know, we're just not going to do online. We're going to have all the support staff and the resources that go with it. And it paid off. So.
My question is for Kevin. I'd like to know if you used a textbook in the PovertyCure course, and also what type of assignments you gave the students. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. No, actually, I have not used the textbook. I have that material there, and I'm toying with how to work that in there. At this point, what I have them do is to watch the weekly episode, and then each week the description of the assignment is pretty much the same. It's to review the video, compare this and reflect on this in light of what you read in the textbook. There's actually 2 textbooks I have them reading. One's actually a textbook and one's a parallel companion book. So I said, go back through the video, make the connections that you can between the Hill textbook and the other book, and then and write about those, but always through the lens of faith. For us, I use it as the faith integration assignment each week. For us, what that means, especially in an online class, is that one of the discussion boards for the week is going to be the Faith Integration Board. So they know every week that's their responsibility. Watch that video, make connections through the course, but also within the framework of faith. And PovertyCure makes that easy because in many cases it just states the case right there, so it makes it easy for them to build on it from there.
Okay, we've got back there.
I think the only thing I remember from my first economics course was a phrase, excess profits leads to ruinous competition. And when I lay over that, the product life cycle, every industry goes through a product life cycle. I think now in online education, we're in the growth phase where almost anybody can make money. But even if online education continues to grow, eventually we'll have it at a decreasing rate, but the supply of people coming into the market is going to be more and more, which is good for consumers. But I'm wondering at what point does online education become a real challenge? I understand why administrators like this, but at what point is more and more people getting into this going to compete away excess profits?
Well, I'll start answering that and jump in anytime, please. Sure. Entry barriers, one of the things that I'm thinking about, I mean, well, I think you're talking in terms of do you eventually saturate the market with schools and so forth. Entry barriers, for schools to be able to do it well, to get the appropriate accreditations, to meet the standards of the government and other entities that might want their hand in this, because we've seen that with student financial aid and other agencies that care very much about the definition of attendance and what constitutes attendance. My guess is that my personal guess is the entry barrier to start new programs is going to get very high very soon.
And I would just add excellence for any program, and we all know this. Schools are known by their reputation, and you either make it or you die if you don't have excellence, and that includes online. And I make it very clear to my students that these are the expectations. This is why all of us, we call people. I mean, I've sat on the phone, and I always, Kevin is my boss, so every once in a while I'll say, Kevin, going to be extra phone charges this month because I have to spend a lot of time on the phone with online students. That's critical. And you can't lower your standards just because it's online. And it's like any industry. The cream rises to the top. And that isn't to say also, because we talked about this in Myrtle Beach, not everything will be online. There is still going to be areas in this industry for traditional higher ed and even for face-to-face classes for adults. So we have to keep that in mind. It's just that there will be fewer students, as I showed you on one of those charts. The students are going to be increasing, but at a decreasing rate. And there was another statistic last year in the Wall Street Journal that caught my eye. It said that 29% of all college students now are traditional, which they defined from 18 to 24. You have many veterans going back to school, but they're not counted in the traditional mix. So we have to keep that in mind. Yeah, there will be changes.
Okay. Question up front, and then we'll go to that one over there.
My question is for Kevin and maybe for Chris. Are there additional costs or copyright issues associated with embedding the videos in Moodle?
Yes, that's a very good question. Yeah, and that's why I mentioned Anjelka Munkel in there. Am I pronouncing her?
Yes.
I see it in writing, and I see her in the videos. And anyway, she worked with me over the course of this last year to work on that distribution agreement. So we do have a legal document now. In fact, I've got a copy of it in here. And they agreed on $250 as an annual fee, licensing fee, if you will, to use it for the year. So that's something we'll pay every year that we use the video.
Yeah, I'll only mention that I think you were the very first license agreement that we made, so we're still testing the market price of that. But,
Yeah.
but having said that, we want to make this available and well used and integrated. So make us an offer we can't refuse.
That was a strange telephone call, and Yelka called me one day, and basically she was asking me, how much do you think you should pay for this? Oh, in that case, yeah.
Okay, good. Front row over there.
Thanks for the presentations. I had a parent once ask me how, as a faith-based school, we were any different from Wikipedia, which I thought the answer was obvious, but we aren't purveyors of information, and I explained that all units of the university, both inside and outside the classroom, are meant to curate and cultivate a kind of character in our students, not just simply educating them. So I don't ask this out of skepticism, but I simply wonder, how well can we do that online, and is there research to support that?
Again, excellence is the key. In my courses, and I've taught online at 3 schools, they do Harvard cases, University of Virginia Darden School of Business cases, and they do original research for my discussion board postings. Because I teach primarily master's students, but I've done this even at the bachelor's level. Part of getting a degree, I worked in industry for 20 years before I went into higher ed, and I was expected to have research skills even with a bachelor's degree. So that's very important personally, and we all do this in our school. We have high curriculum standards, and it's critical that students understand up front, these are the standards. This is what you need to do. And our university makes it clear. And to be very blunt with you, not everybody makes it through our online programs. There are people who fail, not just for absentee, but there's, you know, like everybody else, there's plagiarism issues, and they just can't cut it financially. I mean, I'm sorry, not financially, academically, okay? But we keep in mind, because the financial aid standards are high too, and you never want to be in a position when you're in an audit and you don't have attendance records, you don't have excellent academic records, et cetera.
But insofar as the mission or ethos of our school is to cultivate the character of our students, how well can we do that in an online platform?
With the faith integration. We have every one of our courses at every level, associates, bachelors, and masters. We have faith integration components, and that's critical.
And a point I would add to that is, again, in our own university, I go back quite a ways at Mount Vernon, and I remember when our traditional faculty had grave concerns about us even doing adult education at all, let alone online. That, well, you're not sending them to chapel, so how can they possibly be, you know, being mentored and so forth? And what we had to convince them over a long period of time is that we could indeed do it. Sam is a great example of that. But faith integration to us means more than put a Bible passage in there and say, you know, tell me what this verse means to you today. I mean, there might be a little bit of that here and there if you're trying to make it a little easier at moments. But most of the courses are designed and set up so that there is an entire book dedicated to that issue, or a DVD series, or whatever it would happen to be, so that it's something that's integral to the topic. So you're saying, yeah, you can grapple with this, you know, the way anybody else could, or anybody could if they just looked it up in Wikipedia. But I'm asking you to take it a step farther, and that's that step farther that pushes them. It's graded. You're going to have trouble getting straight A's in our program if you can't get through the faith integration part. So we take it serious. We make them take it serious, whether they want it or not. And I will add this one last thing. We used to do surveys on why people decided to come into our programs in the first place, and then we'd survey them at the end, what did you like best about it? Very rarely would anybody say coming in the door that they came to our program because of faith integration, but going out the door, they say that was one of the best takeaways they could possibly have had.
And we've had people also say that it's been the faith that has enabled them to take strong stands now in their companies to do the right thing morally and ethically. And in the day and age with which we live, that's critical.